Welcome back. Angola hopes to make its financial system compliant with international standards by the start of next year, allowing commercial banks to resume dollar clearing operations in the country. All dollar clearing by international banks for customers in Angola stopped in 2016 in response to the risk of financial crime and inadequate supervisory safeguards. Angola was seeking technical assistance from the U.S. government and Federal Reserve to help resolve remaining issues. The Financial Action Task Force, an international money laundering watchdog, early last year removed the Southern African country from the blacklist of non-compliant nations it had been on since 2010. And economic growth in Uganda may accelerate in the coming fiscal year, underpinned by government spending on infrastructure and an anticipated recovery in lending to the private sector. And that's according to the International Monetary Fund. The growth rate may increase to 5.5% in the 12 months through June 2018, compared with an estimated 4.5% this year and 4.8% in the prior 12-month period. The Finance Ministry forecasts slightly higher growth of between 6% and 7%. Uganda is increasingly borrowing to fund its ambitious infrastructure projects, which may raise public debt to a peak of 44% of gross domestic product in 2020-2021 from 35% in 2015-2016. IMF says the debt levels remain manageable and at low risk of distress. Africa is the only continent in which global insurance underwriter Allianz says consistent growth returns averaging 10% were recorded over the past decade. This was part of the briefing on the continent's insurance markets discussed by the top management team of Allianz Africa at the 2017 Africa CEO Forum held in Geneva, Switzerland. Highlighting where the large insurance markets are on the continent, the risks and the emerging segments is Allianz Africa's Chief Operating Officer Delphine Maidu and the Regional Chief Executive Officer Conrad Vrolit.
Some of the challenges that Africa faces, we are investing and here for the long run. Talent development is key for us, especially on the African continent. So I will give you an overall picture of our investments in Africa and our activities in the past 18 months, which, if you've noticed, have also gotten us nominated for the International Company of the Year at the CEO Forum. So fingers crossed for us tonight. So globally, we are one of the largest insurance company in the world, turnover 122 billion euros, operating profit of 10.8 billion euros. We focus on three main segments. So it's P&C, property and casualty insurance, it's asset management, and it's life and health. We've been in business for 127 years. In Africa, we've been present on the African continent for over 100 years now. In 16 countries, 1,500 employees, 600 million euros in revenue. No other international insurance company has offices in so many African countries. So then that also reaffirms our investments on the continent. In the past few years, we've accelerated our plans in Kenya, in Ghana, and also recently acquired the Zurich business operation in Morocco. So, and one of the reasons why we always come to the Africa CEO Forum, some of the challenges that Africa faces is low insurance penetration. We are consistent with the rest of the emerging markets at 3%, but if you take South Africa, with 80% roughly of the insurance market in Africa at 14% insurance penetration. If you take South Africa out of it, the insurance penetration in Africa is hovering around 1%. As far as our strategic alignment in Africa, we believe in growing the insurance industry here in Africa. And the African Development Bank, who's hosting this conference, has 5 priorities for the continent that we're quite aligned with. One is light up and power up Africa, feed Africa, industrialize Africa, and integrate Africa. And the last one is improve the quality of life of the African people. So as we look at the fast-growing population, urbanization, the more people are also educated, the better they understand risks and are also willing to purchase insurance. So that's where we come into the picture. So we invested in the long run. As we said, we've acquired Zurich in Morocco, and after that, we created a regional hub in Casablanca to focus on building our operations across the African continent.
Our Allianz Africa story is we have a portfolio of markets here that we will accompany over the next 25 years to here. This is not a 3-year play. It's a generation game. Mm-hmm. And so you get two sources of growth. One source of growth is the growth rate of the economy. Pick your number, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%. You saw some of the numbers presented in the plenary today with sort of that range across Africa. Okay, Nigeria last year was minus a bit, up to plus 7 or 8, I think, for Kenya. And then you have that increasing penetration, so going from 1% of GDP to 7% over the next year. It's difficult to say exactly what that period will be, 10 years, 25 years, 50 years. It depends a bit on the countries. And we have looked heavily, can you influence the rate of that growth? Some of it is driven by regulations, mandatory insurance covers. Some of it's driven by a private healthcare system, so requiring private health insurance. Some of it's purely cultural. In some cultures there is a sort of implicit family type of arrangement for insurance, self-insurance. In others it's more free-for-all. So it's very difficult to predict where any individual. I've tried it. We've tried those studies. I wish I had that secret.
And finally, in Mauritius, the foreign direct investment grew 41% in 2016 to 13.64 billion rupees, thanks to investment in real estate, financial and insurance activities. According to data from the central bank, foreign investment in real estate led with a total of 9.93 billion rupees, followed by financial and insurance activities with 2.15 billion rupees. Famed for its white sandy beaches and luxury spas, the Indian Ocean island nation is diversifying its economy away from sugar, textiles and tourism into offshore banking, business outsourcing, luxury real estate and medical tourism. And that's it on the program for today. Thank you very much for watching, and Chimizi will be welcome.